This year is dedicated to Le'ili Nishmas V'chalei Bas Rav Chaim Tzvi. Perek Megillat Eicha. So in the previous Perek, we were talking about the theme of the previous Perek, which was a long Perek, was Yirmiyahu's experience of the enormity of the cruelty that of the wall, the cruelty that comes from the wall that Hashem erected, separating any possibility of seeing purposefulness in what was happening. He spoke about this via his own life, the life of the people, and it ended with a request that the wall be torn down. Okay, when will the wall be torn down? And he said, in the merit of Emunah, when we begin to hope to Hashem and let go of any thought of control. In the coming Perek, he's going to talk to us more about the horror that we went through as a people during the time of the destruction. Not because if you said it once, saying it twice is even better, but because everything that happened forced us into letting go of one after another of our life's goals, one dimension after another of thinking that we could live a life in which our own sense of egotism and desire is going to be the driving force. Okay, with this. This Perek begins by talking about the fate of Yoshiyahu, the righteous king, who was killed. As we spoke about in the previous Perek, the righteous are killed in the time of the wicked because they bear responsibility for not having been there enough, not having created an example that's vivid enough that people look at that and hear their story and their image and are moved by the imagery. Because again, the mind has to inform the heart, which means that the ear has to inform the eye. Seichel has to inform regesh, and this happens through imagery. So this is why people love a story. So the ongoing story, of righteousness is what all of the Siporei Tzadikim are about. So it's up to people who, as we spoke about last time, who even know a little more than somebody else, to be their living narrative, to be the story of what righteousness could be. But there's another aspect as well. The other aspect is we see ourselves as separate, but Hashem sees us as one body. So there are people who are analogous to the eye or the mind or the heart, and they suffer when the rest of the body suffers. And they have to be stronger than everything else. But ultimately, the fate of the rest of the body is the fate of the heart and the mind. Eicha, Yu'am Zahav. How was it that the gold has become dark? So what does that mean? The way people looked changed. Yishneh HaKetem HaTov. Okay, the beautiful imprint, the good imprint of those who are good, the tzaddikim, changed. Shitapechna avnei kodesh. Okay, those who compared to holy stones, like the rocks on the gems that were on the choshen, the children, each one of who has their brilliant color, they poured out brosh kol chutzot, the head of every street. How could such a thing happen? So when people often ask us about the Holocaust. The 1 million children who died in the Holocaust. It's an awesome thing to even think about. So there are different, what could they have done to deserve such a terrible fate? So the basic approach that we know is that they weren't here for the first time. Okay, it says a man is judged for his sin. A child isn't a man. There's nothing a child could have done to deserve that sort of suffering. But everyone's here. As we learned many times, the Arizal said already in his time, nobody's here the first time. But it's not random, like when a child suffers and dies, certainly 1 million children, it's beyond, 1 million children, you can't even imagine what 1 million children are. it's for the sins of their parents. So that means that Hashem will select a parent who needs the tikkun and is capable of the tikkun that this suffering will bring forth. So I want you to hear very carefully what I just said. Not only need the tikkun, everybody has failings, but people who could grow from this and become more perfected through it. But it's still very hard. For various reasons, I was in Har Herzl this morning, the military cemetery. While I was there, I was looking at some of the monuments, and there's a tunnel, sort of a tunnel. I don't know how to describe it. It's an arc. Yeah, it's a tunnel. It opens on both ends. And they have monuments for people whose bodies either were in such grievous condition that they couldn't be buried separately. In other words, they couldn't determine when this